Chapter 2 of Breaching the Marianas, The Battle for Saipan by John C. Chapin. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Sidebars. Lieutenant General Holland M. Smith. Lieutenant General Holland M. Smith, one of the most famous Marines of World War II, was born in 1882. He was commissioned a second lieutenant in 1905. There followed a series of overseas assignments in the Philippines, Nicaragua, Santo Domingo, and with the Marine Brigade in France in World War I. Beginning in the early 1930s, he became increasingly focused on the development of amphibious warfare concepts. Soon after the outbreak of war with Japan in 1941, he came to a crucial position, command of all Marines in the Central Pacific. As another Marine officer later described him, he was of medium height, perhaps 5 feet 9 or 10 inches, and somewhat paunchy. His once black hair had turned gray. His once close-trimmed mustache was somewhat scraggly. He wore steel-rimmed glasses and he smoked cigars incessantly. There was one other feature that characterized him, a ferocious temper that earned him the nickname Howlin' Mad Smith, although his close friends knew him as Hoke. This characteristic would usually emerge as irritation at what he felt were substandard performances. One famous example of this was his relief of an Army general in Saipan. A huge inter-service uproar erupted. Less than 2 years later, after 41 years of active service, during which he was awarded 4 Distinguished Service Medals for his leadership in 4 successful amphibious operations, he retired in April 1946 as a 4-star general. He died in January 1967. The 2nd Marine Division. The origins of this division lay in the activation of the 2nd Marine Brigade as part of the Fleet Marine Force on 1 July 1936. A year later, the brigade deployed to Shanghai, China, returning in 1938 to San Diego, California. On 1 February 1941, the unit was redesignated as the 2nd Marine Division. Its component regiments, the 2nd, 6th, 8th, and 10th Marines, brought with them impressive histories of service in Veracruz, Mexico, World War I in France, and the Caribbean. In World War II, elements of the division served in Iceland, in Hawaii during the attack on Pearl Harbor, and on Samoa, then the full division in the Guadalcanal campaign, followed by the bloody assault of Tarawa, for which it was awarded a Presidential Unit Citation, and on to Saipan, Tinian, and Okinawa. The 2nd Marine Division Patch. The 2nd Marine Division shoulder patch was worn on Saipan. Designed and approved in late 1943, the insignia is in the official Marine Corps colors of scarlet and gold. The insignia displays a spearhead-shaped scarlet background with a hand holding aloft a lighted gold torch. A scarlet numeral 2 is superimposed upon the torch, and the torch and hand are encircled by 5 white stars in the arrangement of the Southern Cross constellation. Under this, the division's First World War II combat took place at Guadalcanal. The 4th Marine Division. This division had its roots in the shifting and redesignation of several other units. The 23rd Marines began as infantry detached from the 3rd Division in February 1943, the same month that an artillery battalion became the genesis of the 14th Marines, and engineer elements of the 19th Marines formed the start of the 20th Marines. In March, the 24th Marines was organized, and then in May it was split in 2 to supply the men for the 25th Marines. This wartime shuffling provided the major building blocks for a new division. The units were originally separated, however, with the 24th Marines and a variety of reinforcing units, engineer, artillery, medical, motor transport, special weapons, tanks, etc., at Camp Pendleton in California. The rest of the units were at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. This East Coast echelon moved to Pendleton by train and also by ship through the Panama Canal in July and August 1943. All the units were now finally together, and thus the 4th Marine Division was formally activated on 14 August 1943. After intensive training, it shipped out on 13 January 1944, and in 13 short months made 4 major assault landings: Roy Namur, Saipan, Tinian, and Iwo Jima, suffering over 17,000 casualties. It was awarded 2 Presidential Unit Citations and a Navy Unit Commendation, and then deactivated 28 November 1945. In February 1966, however, it was reactivated as the lead division in the Marine Corps Reserve, and it furnished essential units to Desert Storm and the liberation of Kuwait. The 4th Marine Division patch. Worn on Saipan, it had a gold 4 on a scarlet background, the official colors of the U.S. Marine Corps. This emblem was designed by Staff Sergeant John Fabian, a member of the division's Public Affairs Office before the Marshall's Campaign. His commanding officer was astonished to find that, when the division attacked Roy Islet in Kwajalein Atoll in the Marshall Islands, January 1944, the layout of the runways on the Japanese airstrip were an exact replica. The Army 27th Infantry Division. This division, before the national emergency was declared in 1940, was a State of New York National Guard organization. It contained many famous old regiments, some dating from the Revolutionary and Civil Wars. In World War II, the division's 165th Infantry had been the renowned Old 69th New York Infantry, also known as the Fighting 69th and Fighting Irish of World War I fame. The first unit of this regiment was organized in 1775. As the war in Europe grew in intensity, the Selective Service Act gave the President the power to federalize the National Guard. Thus, the 27th Division was activated by President Roosevelt on 25 September 1940. It was first sent to Fort McClellan, Alabama for intensive training, and then, in December 1941, to California. On 28 February 1942, the first elements of the division sailed from San Francisco and landed at the town of Hilo on the Big Island of Hawaii. During the next 2 months, the division units were scattered throughout the island for local defense and training. That was the start of the longest wartime overseas service of any National Guard division in the United States Army. In the fall of 1942, the division was directed to assemble on the island of Oahu. Major General Ralph C. Smith took over command at that time. Then in midsummer 1943, orders came to prepare the 165th Infantry Regiment, reinforced by a battalion of the 105th Infantry and an artillery battalion, for an assault to capture the coral atoll of Macon in the Gilbert Islands chain. Following a 4-day battle there, in November 1943, the division furnished a battalion of the 106th Infantry for the unopposed occupation of Majuro in the Marshall Islands in January 1944. The final prelude to Saipan for units of the 27th came the next month. 2 battalions of the 106th fought at Eniwetok Atoll in the Marshalls. After the division's struggle on Saipan, it went on to the battle for Okinawa in April 1945, and then to the occupation of Japan in September 1945. The final chapter came in December 1946 when the 27th Infantry Division was deactivated. End of Chapter 2.